A single Ukrainian FPV drone strike on the Eastern Front has led to the destruction of an entire Russian defensive strongpoint, resulting in the loss of multiple vehicles, fortified structures, ammunition stockpiles, and significant personnel. The incident occurred days ago along the 1,000-kilometer front line in Ukraine, where first-person view drones routinely target vehicles, positions, and equipment. While most such strikes result in limited damage confined to a single target, this engagement escalated into a large-scale chain reaction with consequences far beyond the initial impact. The target was a Russian Gaz Tiger armored vehicle parked on a dirt road beside a fortified strongpoint constructed around a low-rise topped with damaged farm buildings. The position served as an anchor for a section of the Russian defensive line and was manned by an estimated platoon, with approximately 40 soldiers rotating through trenches, bunkers, observation posts, and rest areas. Ukrainian reconnaissance drones had monitored the site for weeks, documenting a standard defensive layout consisting of two reinforced bunkers connected by a trench system along the back slope of the rise. A mortar position was dug in behind the bunkers. Several vehicles were dispersed around the site, including at least two Tiger armored cars used for resupply and transport, and one BMP-2 infantry fighting vehicle positioned in a hull-down emplacement. Some vehicles were concealed under camouflage netting, others parked near the partially ruined farm structures. Reconnaissance had also observed extensive ammunition storage at the position. Russian frontline units in this sector had been experiencing chronic resupply delays, attributed to Ukrainian interdiction of logistics routes further to the rear. In response, local commanders began stockpiling ammunition at forward positions whenever deliveries arrived. Instead of maintaining only a limited supply and relying on regular replenishment, they accumulated shells, rockets, and mines on site. Artillery shells were stacked under a corrugated metal lean-to beside the first bunker, exposed on open ground without blast-protected storage. Crates of RPG-7 rockets and PG-7 warheads were stored inside the second bunker alongside sleeping quarters. TM-62 anti-tank mines, each containing more than 7 kilograms of TNT, were placed in a shallow pit covered by a tarpaulin near the mortar position. On the morning of the strike, a Tiger armored vehicle arrived carrying additional ammunition, including crates of 82mm mortar rounds, 30mm autocannon belts for the BMP-2, and boxes of hand grenades. At the time of the attack, the vehicle remained partially loaded, effectively functioning as a mobile ammunition depot, parked within an already overloaded defensive site. At approximately 11:40 local time, under overcast skies with intermittent drizzle and temperatures near 3 degrees Celsius, a Ukrainian drone operator launched a standard FPV drone from a concealed position about 2 kilometers away. The drone, equipped with a single-shaped charge warhead weighing less than a kilogram and costing approximately $500, approached the strongpoint at low altitude under remote guidance. The Tiger was parked beside the first bunker with its rear doors open. Soldiers had been unloading ammunition when the process was interrupted, leaving crates of mortar rounds and autocannon ammunition inside the vehicle. The operator guided the drone directly into the open rear compartment, detonating the shaped charge among the ammunition crates. The initial explosion triggered the detonation of nearby 82mm high-explosive mortar rounds, each containing roughly 400 grams of TNT. The blast caused a rapid chain reaction within the crate, producing a combined detonation that destroyed the Tiger from within. Armored panels, engine components, and burning debris were propelled outward across the position. Fragments and unexploded rounds landed near the stacked 152mm artillery shells under the adjacent lean-to, located approximately 8 meters away. The impact of burning debris and at least one detonating mortar round ignited the artillery shells, setting off a major secondary explosion. Between 40 and 60 shells, each containing 6 to 8 kilograms of high explosive, detonated in rapid succession. The blast flattened the lean-to, collapsed part of the trench network, and sent shrapnel across the entire strongpoint. Ukrainian reconnaissance footage recorded a large fireball rising above the position, followed by a column of dark smoke visible against the overcast sky. Within seconds, what had begun as a routine drone strike evolved into the destruction of a fortified defensive anchor on the Eastern Front. Further details of the chain reaction and its full consequences follow in the next part of this report. Following the detonation of the 152mm artillery shells, the destruction at the Russian strongpoint continued to escalate as additional stored munitions were ignited by blast waves, heat, and flying fragments. The initial secondary explosion had already collapsed part of the trench network and destroyed the lean to shelter. However, the shockwave and shrapnel extended well beyond that point, striking adjacent positions within the compact perimeter of the defensive site. Approximately 20 meters from the first bunker stood the second reinforced bunker, which served both as a fighting position and a rest area. Inside this structure, crates of RPG-7 rockets and PG-7 warheads had been stored alongside sleeping quarters. A fragment from the artillery shell detonation penetrated the bunker entrance, which consisted of a timber-framed doorway designed primarily for weather protection rather than blast resistance. The fragment detonated among the stacked warheads. The resulting explosions occurred in rapid succession as multiple PG-7-shaped charge warheads ignited within confined space. The blast filled the bunker interior with fire, shrapnel, and overpressure. According to the available assessment, anyone inside at the moment of detonation would have been killed instantly. The force of the explosion blew the timber roof outward, collapsing the structure and scattering burning debris into the surrounding trench system. Flames from the destroyed bunker spread outward across the position. Nearby, anti-tank mines of the TM-62 series had been stored in a shallow pit covered with a tarpaulin. The tarp, already perforated by shrapnel from earlier blasts, caught fire as burning debris fell across the site. As heat penetrated the pit, the mines began detonating individually. Each mine contained more than 7 kilograms of TNT. Unlike the earlier mass detonations, these explosions occurred intermittently as individual mines reached detonation temperature at different times. Columns of earth and smoke rose repeatedly from the pit area, and fragments were scattered across the strongpoint. These detonations continued sporadically for more than 10 minutes after the original drone strike. At approximately 30 meters from the initial impact site, the BMP-2 infantry fighting vehicle that had been dug into a hold-down position also became engulfed in the chain reaction. The vehicle either sustained damage from burning debris landing on its exposed turret or from fragments penetrating its armor. Fire ignited fuel or onboard ammunition. As temperatures increased, the 30mm autocannon ammunition stored within the vehicle began to cook off. Individual rounds discharged unpredictably as propellant ignited, sending tracer rounds in uncontrolled directions across the position and into adjacent fields. Shortly afterward, the engine compartment caught fire, adding sustained diesel combustion to the ongoing destruction. The BMP-2 burned for more than an hour. From the moment the Ukrainian FPV drone impacted the Tiger to the final detonations of the anti-tank mines, approximately 20 minutes elapsed. During that time, the Russian defensive strongpoint transitioned from an intact fortified position to a devastated site marked by craters, collapsed structures, and burning vehicles. Ukrainian reconnaissance drones remained overhead, recording the sequence and conducting immediate battle damage assessment. Video footage later released through Ukrainian military channels shows the progression clearly. The initial strike, a brief pause, then successive detonations increasing in scale. The largest explosion produced a blast wave strong enough to visibly shake the reconnaissance drone camera, despite the aircraft hovering more than 500 meters above ground and over 1 kilometer from the site. Thick gray-black smoke rose above the low rise and drifted across the overcast sky. Russian soldiers who survived the initial blasts were observed fleeing from trenches and bunkers. Some attempted to move toward the burning areas, possibly to extinguish fires or retrieve wounded personnel. Others ran away from the position entirely, dispersing across muddy fields behind the rise. Ukrainian surveillance recorded multiple figures falling or crawling amid the chaos. Intercepts of Russian communications from the sector later confirmed that the position had been reported as completely destroyed and in need of full reconstruction. Post-strike aerial observation identified extensive material losses. One Gaz Tiger armored vehicle, the original target, was completely destroyed. A second Tiger parked under camouflage netting near the second bunker was also destroyed by blast and fire. The BMP-2 infantry fighting vehicle was burned out. Both reinforced bunkers collapsed and were gutted by fire. Approximately 60 meters of trench line sustained heavy damage or collapse. The mortar position was destroyed, and the ammunition storage area was obliterated, replaced by overlapping craters and scattered debris. Ukrainian surveillance counted approximately 12 to 15 bodies visible on or around the position in the hours following the explosions. An additional 8 to 10 soldiers were observed being carried or assisted away by surviving personnel, many appearing severely wounded. Communications intercepts indicated at least 20 total casualties, killed and wounded combined. The economic asymmetry of the strike was significant. The Ukrainian FPV drone used in the attack cost approximately $500 and carried a shaped charge weighing less than 1 kilogram. In contrast, the destroyed vehicles, ammunition stocks, fortification materials, communications equipment, and personal gear represented estimated losses between $2.5 and $4.5 million. The event demonstrates how a single low-cost unmanned system can trigger disproportionate material and personnel losses when ammunition is densely concentrated within a confined defensive perimeter. Further analysis of the logistical and systemic factors that contributed to the scale of the destruction follows in the next part of this report. The destruction of the Russian strongpoint on the Eastern Front highlights broader logistical pressures and systemic vulnerabilities that have developed over the course of the war in Ukraine. According to information gathered from Ukrainian reconnaissance and communications intercepts in the sector, the chain reaction was not the result of an isolated procedural failure, but reflected a wider pattern of ammunition concentration at forward positions. Russian frontline units in this area have been facing chronic and worsening disruptions in ammunition supply. Ukrainian forces have conducted repeated strikes on rear area depots, logistics hubs, and supply convoys using artillery, long-range drones, and other means. Key road junctions and bridges have been targeted to complicate transport routes. As a result, deliveries that previously arrived on predictable schedules have become irregular. Convoys have reportedly taken longer and more circuitous routes to avoid interdiction, increasing transit times and fuel consumption. Loads have been dispersed across multiple vehicles to reduce the impact of losing a single convoy, and some deliveries have failed to reach their destinations after being destroyed deeper behind the front. In response to this uncertainty, Russian local commanders have adopted a practice of stockpiling ammunition at forward strongpoints whenever resupply occurs. Rather than maintaining a limited number of days of supply and relying on regular replenishment from the rear, units have accumulated shells, rockets, mines, and other ordnance at the defensive sites themselves. Storage has taken place in bunkers, under tarpaulins, inside vehicles, in trenches, and in shallow pits. These measures are intended to prevent shortages during active engagements, but significantly increase the concentration of explosive material within compact defensive perimeters. Military safety doctrine typically requires that different categories of ammunition be stored in purpose-built, blast-protected magazines, often buried underground, with separation distances and reinforced barriers to prevent sympathetic detonation. Such separation is designed to ensure that if one storage area is struck, adjacent munitions do not detonate in a cascading sequence. At the destroyed strongpoint, these standards were not observed. Artillery shells were placed in an exposed lean-to. RPG warheads were stored inside an occupied bunker. Anti-tank mines were kept in a shallow, tarp-covered pit. A resupply vehicle loaded with additional ammunition was parked within meters of these stockpiles during unloading. The proximity of these munitions created conditions in which a small initiating explosion could propagate across multiple storage sites. Ukrainian drone operators are aware of this vulnerability. According to the information provided, they actively monitor for indicators of ammunition concentration, including visible stacks of crates, tarp-covered pits, and vehicles with open rear doors during unloading operations. Supply vehicles arriving at frontline positions are reportedly treated as priority targets during the unloading window because they combine fresh ammunition with existing stockpiles in confined spaces. The economic disparity illustrated by the strike is significant. A drone costing approximately $500 destroyed equipment and material valued in the millions. Losses at the position included 2 Gaz Tiger armored vehicles, 1 BMP-2 infantry fighting vehicle, dozens of artillery and mortar rounds, RPG rockets, anti-tank mines, autocannon ammunition belts, grenades, small arms ammunition, and fortification materials. Ukrainian surveillance and intercepted communications indicated total casualties of approximately 20 to 25 killed and wounded combined. The position was described in Russian communications as completely destroyed and requiring reconstruction. Since February 2022, Russian forces have sustained heavy cumulative losses in personnel and equipment. According to the figures cited in the report, these include approximately 149,000 soldiers killed and wounded, more than 11,600 tanks, nearly 24,000 armored vehicles, and substantial quantities of ammunition. A portion of these losses has resulted not only from direct engagement, but also from depot explosions and logistics strikes that destroy stockpiled materiel before it can be used in combat. The incident underscores the increasing role of low-cost, unmanned systems in shaping battlefield outcomes. FPV drones are deployed daily across the front, often producing limited tactical effects against individual vehicles or positions. In environments where ammunition and fuel are densely concentrated, however, a single strike can trigger cascading detonations that eliminate entire defensive nodes. In this case, the triggering device was a shaped charge weighing less than 1 kilogram, guided from a distance of approximately 2 kilometers by a 23-year-old operator with 14 months of combat drone experience. From the first impact to the final mine detonation, roughly 20 minutes elapsed. In that period, a fortified strongpoint that had required weeks to construct and equip was rendered unusable. The terrain was left marked by craters, collapsed bunkers, and burned-out vehicles. The event demonstrates how logistical strain, storage practices, and the widespread use of unmanned aerial systems interact to amplify the effects of relatively small initial strikes. For continued coverage and verified updates